Hi, everyone, and we are so glad to be back. I'm here with Matt Snyder. I'm Kate Kaufman Burns from FIA, and we are talking about adolescence, that time between 13 and 18 years of age where who am I? Where do I belong? And integrating identity is such an important part of the developmental stage. And it's not always an easy time, right, Matt? I don't know if you remember, but in my experience as a clinician working with families of adoption for many years, but families in general, this is a time when our emerging adults are fighting for power and control as they work to figure out who they are. Do you remember back to those years? Do you ever remember fighting for that, being angry or rebelling against rules or the expectations of your parents? What was that like for you?
I definitely remember it. I was definitely the one to push buttons and try to test the limits and, um, you know, the struggle for power and control. Like I always kind of had a thing for authority figures and would try to go to the beat of my own drum and see what I could get away with. And a lot of times it didn't work out super well for me. Would get in trouble and get punished and lose whatever I was trying to do, whether that was like video games or staying up late or whatever or going somewhere with a friend. So I don't know. Yeah, I think I struggled with that a lot and would sort of lash out, say things that I didn't mean, would get really angry in the moment, and say something of like I wish I wasn't adopted or something that really would sting. Not really thinking about much about like really having those feelings, but knowing that it would be something that would really hurt. And after the fact, I would feel really bad about it. Whether sometimes it would be like 5 minutes after that, and I cool down. I'm like, oh, that was super mean, and like I shouldn't have said what I said. And sometimes it would take longer than that, and eventually would come to it, but would try to learn from it and move on, and you know, really clarify that I didn't mean it, and it was just mostly out of anger,
which is
frustration.
which is so much a part of adolescence, and anger and frustration and fighting for your power is it happens with people in all different family constellations. And I think it would be, it's a sign of intelligence and strategy, not so much identity, when you're just looking to see where can you position yourself with more power when you're fighting against the rules and expectations of your parents who have the
Mhm.
ultimate authority, right? So
Yeah.
we use what we can. That's what we do in adolescence. It's like it's more of just a strategic move rather than, like you said, Matt, like a true, honest, heartfelt experience of something. It's like, how am I going to get my way? How am I going to get leverage? So
Hmm.
I appreciate you sharing that, because I think there are families who are watching who have taken some hard, shots from their kids during adolescence. And one of thing I say is, try not to take it personally. Try to step back and breathe and recognize that this isn't so much about adoption, but this is to be expected for any person in this time of kind of turbulence in
Hmm.
adolescence. But thank you for sharing that. I can imagine that there were things that you wanted to know, like during those years when you're trying to figure out, wait, who am I and how am I connected in the world to my family that I love, my forever family through adoption, but also the people that I'm biologically connected to, my birth family. Do you remember when you started to think about wanting to meet your birth mother? What was going through your mind? And was adolescence or 18 the right time?
I think I kind of always thought about it, but never felt like I really needed it until I turned 18. For me, it was just like it felt like the right time, but I think for everybody it's different. Um, I kind of, at least I think that's all I knew of. Like I had to wait till I was 18, no matter what. So for me, that just kind of felt normal. With if I did think about it, it would just kind of be in a passing thought, not something that really stuck with me. And I was like, I need this experience to gain closure. For me, that's what it was. But for some, it's like, I just have questions that I want answered. So I don't think there is a perfect time. I think that, somebody who was in my shoes would think that whatever is needed for me at that moment is the right time.
Right. And I know I appreciate you saying that because, you know, I have often said to families the right time, if it's safe, and if it can, that the meeting can be mediated or arranged with thoughtfulness, with professional support. um, it happens when people need it the most. And for
Mhm.
some, that could be 7, 8, 9. And for others, it may be 16, 17, 18. And that's unique to every family. So I appreciate you saying that. And there are some families who say, listen, if you want to meet your birth family members, we're going to wait till you're 18. It's kind of an arbitrary number. But in the world of emotions and identity and, development, that could be very different for different families. So for you, it felt like the right time, like you had what you needed to like just kind of integrate all the information you learned, which is awesome. And yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, I think for me, it was mostly like I never really felt like I needed to learn that much more about my identity until these years, like until I got to be a teenager and started to grow into who I've become now. But I think, you know, because for me, my adoption was, I think, different than a lot of people's experience in that I was, never really talked about as being adopted. I always felt like part of the family. Have still have really good relationships with cousins and aunts and uncles on both sides of the family. So for me, I never really felt the urge to get answers to questions until my adolescent years, and that's when I think for me was super helpful. I went through my therapist at the time to help arrange the meeting and be there as like a mediator. Also, my adoptive parents were there too. It was just helpful to have people around me besides just me and her, and
Yeah.
I got the answers I needed and was very thankful about the experience. And that was kind of it. I'd not met her since, or you know,
Yeah, I know I really appreciate you reminding us that there is a network that we try to build around these potential meetings, and not every family has the luxury or opportunity to set these up for their children and their emerging adults. So I'm glad that you had that support. Um, and I don't think you had much information about your birth father at that time, maybe even now.
no, I don't have much now. I don't think there was even much then. I think as far as I knew and what I was told, or at least what I found out, was that he was out of the picture quickly before I even was born. So, um, I don't know if my parents told me that. I think they did, but definitely had it solidified when my birth mother sent me a letter and kind of opened up about her. Just, I guess, like she struggled to even write the letter, but had relationship issues with her kids, had substance abuse problems, mental health struggles, and not any of which was when I was born, but after the fact and what she experienced over the 18 years that I had with my different family that I have now. So I don't think I ever really wanted to learn much more about my birth father, considering he left and abandoned the situation. Um, I'm I don't know that there was much more info to learn, but for me, that's what ended up happening. And I think, like you said about the meeting with her, I was able to get a lot of answers to those questions. And
Mhm.
it's tough, but it's what is my story. So
Yeah, were you in your adolescence when you read that letter from your birth mom?
I can't remember if it was like 16, 17, or if it was right after I'd met her. It was right around that time, late adolescence. And, you know, I think even before that, my parents now would have talked about, at least to me, about my friends. I know a couple of kids I played baseball with. Their dads were big drinkers and were alcoholics, and we were exposed to that. And she would use that as an opportunity to talk about what happens with, you know, genetics, and sometimes it's related to your birth father, sometimes your birth mother. And for me, I don't know that I knew until I read the letter, but I guess, it was
Yeah,
something that
no,
was.
I thank you for bringing that up because we talk about this is potentially the time when we want, if it feels safe and reasonable for parents to talk to kids about the more complex pieces of their adoption story. And just as you mentioned, Matt, like sometimes there's mental health issues that are part of the story, or substance use or misuse pieces, or sometimes there's, they're just different choices. There's complex pieces of a story that we often say adolescence may be the right time because you have more abstract thinking tools and you have more life experience and you have more
Mhm.
hopefully support to make sense of it all. So, what do you think about that? Did it help you knowing that information from your parents and from your birth mom's meeting and from her letter? Did it feel too heavy, too much? Was it useful to you? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think it was a lot at the time, like, to see what she went through, and that could be something I experienced, I guess, like that it led for a good talking point with my parents of like, this is something you need to be aware of and not, keep yourself in good situations and keep yourself around good people and make the right decisions, I think. I don't know. I think that for me, that was the right time to talk about it because I was exposed to it. I had friends that dealt with it and could see it around what was happening. And I don't know, I guess, it's good to have that information so that way now I can lead my life according to that and know that that's something that I could deal with and to try to stay away from those things that would cause that to happen and try to surround myself with good people now. That's what I look out for.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Thank you for saying that. Sometimes, even if it's hard information, it empowers you to make choices for yourself so you can lead the life that is most meaningful to you, safest, healthiest for you. Sometimes families don't have the information. You were able to make a connection with a birth parent and get some more context to your story to help you fill in pieces, but not every family has that. So I think what the takeaway may be, Matt, if you agree, is that even if it's hard information, it can be useful as you apply it to who you are and who you want to be in the world. That it's a different people need different things at different times, and then there's no really one right script as long as you build in the support as it happens before, during, and after, and that those angry, you know, feelings, those, temperamental, moody moments when things are said, it's not for lack of love and loyalty and trust for the parents who are raising you, who are your forever family. It's just kind of part of, being an adolescent, and it's
Mhm.
everybody's, rite of passage. So we just need to keep remembering that these are difficult times, but they're great opportunities to support our emerging adults so they can feel most whole and most hopeful.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
All right. Well, that's the button we're going to put on this interview, Matt. As always, we're so grateful for your voice and your truth. It matters to us, and we'll be back again next time. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, everybody.